Am I recording? Yes, I am. Here is a program that just draws the green circle on the screen, I believe. Yes? Let's have a look. The first time you run, it's always slow. Give me a second here. Everything's okay. Perfect. Green circle on screen, correct? I want to draw a whole bunch of rectangles falling from the screen. And I think it says even to set a frame rate or set a number so that they fall at a certain period, specifically like 10 a second or every 10 frames or something. So let's do that. First thing I'm going to do is delete my circle from the screen. Looks like it's going to run. First time it runs, it's always pretty slow. So I'm going to delete that circle. Okay, I'm going to delete all this information about circles completely. And what I'm going to do is make a vector of rectangle shapes. You can make a vector of anything you want that exists in C++. So I'm going to make a vector of rectangle shapes. And I'll call them, excuse me, maybe rex. I think that's already a word that's used, so maybe just R1 or something like that. So that is going to be a list of rectangle shapes, and there's nothing in them. But I can still go down here and draw them all. Window, well, to do that I have to actually do it in a loop. Because if I have 20, I need to draw all 20 one at a time. If I have 400, I need to draw all 400 at a time. If I have 0, I need to draw none. I can do that all with this for loop as long as I know the size of my vector, how many are stuck inside of there. And vectors are nice because they recognize how big they are. So there you go. I++, and then in this code I'm going to go window.draw, and I'll say R1I, like that. So that is how I draw however many rectangles I have. If I run that, I won't see anything on the screen because I don't have any rectangles yet.
So how do you get rectangles in there?
So the way you add one is you use this command called pushback. So you go R1.pushback, okay, should auto type. And what pushback needs in the brackets is the thing you want to add to the end of the list. So you just write the word rectangle shape, like that. And in fact, you actually need brackets, empty brackets, and we'll explain that later on in our journey here. But now we actually have a rectangle, so it should draw one. The problem is, when you first make a rectangle, by default it has no size. So I want to grab the one. So if I go R10 dot set size, because now I have one in there, then I could give it the set size command where it takes in this vector 2f. I'm just going to do 20 by 20. Okay? And if I run that, I'll now have one rectangle at 0. Do you see it there? It's that little blue line. So that's cool, but the problem is I don't necessarily know if I'm on the 0th or the 1st or the 2nd or the 3rd or whatever one I've added to the back. I could go like this and say R1.size -1, and then that would always address the one I just added to the back of my list. But I'm going to do an even a farther step than that. There's a command for vectors that grabs the last one in the list. It's called R1.back. And then if you hit dot, you can do whatever you want to its, you could set its size, you could set its position, you could set all of that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put this code here where it runs once. I'm actually going to put it in my loop, in my while loop. And right there, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go R1.back and maybe put it at a random position. So I'll say set position. And I'll put it at a random position in the X, but not in the Y. So I'll say 0% 800, which will give me a random position between 0 and 800 in the X. And then in the Y, I'll run it like that. So now it should just pop up rectangles as fast as it can, 60 times a second, all along the top of my screen. Boom. Cool, hey?
It's kind of weird.
And if I want them to move, I already have a loop that goes through all of them here. Right? If there's 200, this loop's going through 200 because it's drawing them. So I could just go R1I, which will grab all 200, and go move. And if I go like 0 and 5 or something like that, they'll all start moving 5 pixels before they're drawn. So it'll look like they're kind of raining from the screen. Let's have a look. That's it.
So could you set a border on the very bottom and it could build up?
Yeah, that would be hard to do without some sort of force or like some knowledge of it, that it's hitting itself. There is a way to do it with the physics engine we'll learn later. The other problem is, like, you could see it starting to slow down as well. Let me just see out the size, and you'll see that R1 is getting bigger and bigger, and so it's keeping them in the memory even though they're off the screen. So we got to find a way to delete them. We'll talk about that maybe another day, because it's a little bit, you see how there's like 200, 300? It's saving them all in the memory when it doesn't really need them to be there.
So if you kept it going for like real long, would it eventually get to like...
Yeah, it'll blow out it'll crash your program and it'll run out of memory.
So we should make them spawn even faster.
Well, you could if you got rid of the frame rate, right? Because the only thing slowing it down right now is the frame rate. You'll see it slow down a lot right here. At first, it'll be super fast.
But then, because it'll run out of RAM, it'll slow
Yeah, now you can already see it starting to slow down, right?
Because it just can't process them
Yeah.
as fast. And if we left it long enough,
It's trying to process 2600, now 28, and it's like...
And it'll just keep going slower until it's like 1.
Yes,
2.
until it crashes, probably runs out of memory. What'll happen? What this basically is a memory leak, right? You're basically filling your RAM up. You see times when the computer slows down, and you can actually visually see that, you know, some sort of process was running in the background. I got OBS running too, so you can see it definitely slowing down. So we'll figure out how to delete them as we go when we get to that point. But we could also set random colors and stuff too, which is cool. Like I could go R1.back, right? And there's a set fill color there. And I could go color, and then it needs 3 numbers, an R, a G, and a B. So I could give it a rand %255, a rand %255, and a rand %255. So now it'll always pop in a completely random color every time it draws it too. It'll look a little cooler. There you go. Okay. You could see that if you could do this with fonts and random characters, you'd kind of have that matrix screen, right? Or if you wrote, oh, whoa, my computer had a major hiccup there. But that's how you draw many, many shapes with rectangles. So I'm gonna post this video to YouTube if you want to have a look. There's actually not much code there. And there you go. I just made a vector of rectangles and I drew them and moved them as I went along. So there you go.